I'm just making this video because I'm curious to how other guys deal with this kind of hate. I don't really see a lot of guys talking about it, but one of the things I find is that whenever you've got a problem, even if it's something that feels like it's just you, there's a hell of a lot of other people out there dealing with it, like OCD, certain mental frustrations from certain things, depression caused by certain things. A lot of these things, are experienced by a lot of other people. You feel like indifferent and like it's just you and everything, because if you don't know a lot of people, you often think you're probably one of the only people going through it. But when you do a bit of research online, you find out there's a lot of other people who are suffering from the same. So I get a certain criteria of people on my videos. The odd troll, people who just randomly wind up here from other places and stuff like that. But I know there's a lot of quite depressed, black pill, bleak viewpoint type of people on these videos. Probably the majority of people, to be honest. So people congregate in certain areas of the internet on certain subjects. Usually people are drawn to it, like moths to the flame, or like regular insects to a light source. Like, I don't know, just how it is. But beating around the bush about the point again. Basically, I know that a lot of people in these circles and stuff probably go through the same depression, hopelessness, wondering how the hell to deal with it. It can be quite a struggle at times. So I'm just wondering, how do other guys, who are like got the same sort of mentality, been through these same sort of things, or even just regular guys, I'd imagine, go through this. Like, I'm just wondering how people deal with the hate when you're like a really unattractive guy, and or in the eyes of females anyway. I mean, I've had a lot of guys tell me that I'm not, or I'm just regular or decent or whatever. But the thing is that men don't really judge harshly the way that girls do. Like, guys judge girls like relatively fairly to a degree. Like, they don't judge them in complete extremes the way that girls, like men judge in like a 1 to 10 scale, and usually it's somewhere around even the ones who are quite bad. You can find a lot of guys who don't really care about that. Like, so a lot of men judge on a 1 to 10 scale, roughly around middle, somewhere around average, where a lot of them would fall. Or even some, looking back at some of the girls that I knew when I was a teenager and stuff, who were considered hotter, really quite below what you'd call average, like bad jaws, kind of pudgy face and stuff like that. But you can, if you're a girl, you can kind of make up for having a really plain Jane sort of looking face, or relatively unattractive, by having a fairly decent sort of body, or even just having youth, like when you're younger. But a guy can't really make up for having bad height and an unattractive face just by having a decent body, sort of thing. It doesn't really work the same for guys, so they have it a lot easier in that regard. But anyway, a lot of guys generally rate girls a lot more favorably, and like on a 1 to 10 sort of thing. But with girls, they tend to rate men in binary, so you're either a 1 or a 0. That's why they always, when you, like on Tinder, you see you're either a yes or a no kind of thing, but they consider like 95% of men to be unattractive. So you're either pretty much next to perfect to a degree, or you're nothing. So like, you could even be a really decent looking guy, but because you're not in the top 2 to 5%, you're still a 0 in their eyes. It's like, even you have to wonder with this Tinder shit, how they're rejecting 95% of men. Like, how the hell that even the decent looking guys, obviously they aren't like fucking 4s and 5s or whatever. There's a lot of guys out there who'd be like 8s or whatever. They're still not in the top 10, so they're deemed to be like not good enough. So it's like you have to be right up there. But the funny thing is that you wonder how the this is happening, how that only 5% are good enough, like, considering there's at least a lot of the guys who wouldn't be in that top 5% would still be relatively decent. And you think, how are these Tinder statistics real? How are females actually, like, surely something's wrong with it, it's just because they're suggesting certain profiles and whatever, and you think, how are they honestly that shallow and picky? And then you have a look at how they rate men, like online, when I've seen them, you know, when they're showing pictures of men and stuff like that in the streets and places like where guys have got them to answer questions and things like that, and you know, they're rating like all of these really like decent, like and better looking than, you know, if you go to a party or a bar or whatever, a lot of these guys who they were getting to rate look better than, if one of those guys would turn up, he'd be the best looking guy in the room, they were still rating them as like one and two maybe, and like 0. How do you even rate somebody as, you know, like how, like these are decent looking guys, so you can understand in a way now, as hard as it is, like, you know, to think that your average looking man is like totally invisible, the way like old people are probably invisible to regular people, you know, like we might as well be like a random sign on the road, at least those get like noticed, right? But I mean, we might as well be like a piece of a fence or a fucking bush, or, you know, a power transformer like across the road, or like a you know, a piece of rubbish on the sidewalk. You know, we are invisible, we're like basically walking furniture, we're just part of the environment, you know. So if even the good looking guys are rated as like 2 or 1 out of 10 or some bullshit, you know, you can sort of understand why all the rest of the men are invisible. It's insane to think how bad they are. And it's sort of like, you know, I even see them try, like some of them rating like model level guys on the internet, saying that they're freaking like, obviously they're not, but some of these girls are rating them as like freaking 2 and 3, like it's like a male model equivalent looking guy with like ripped, you know, like nobody looks like that in real life, but like pretty much, but like abs, really good muscle definition, everything like that, and they're like saying, oh, he's a 2 and a 3, and then the fat girl comes up, they show them a picture of like the obese girl, like, you know, morbidly obese, like no self-respecting person would let their body go that way unless they had an actual degenerative condition where they couldn't move or something like that, like completely round, like a sphere basically with folds of fat, and they're trying to say that these girls are freaking 7s and 8s and all this just because they're female and because they have makeup on. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, you know, like girls absolutely hate, you know, the guys who are below that, you know. It's like, I don't understand how they can rate them so low. I mean, you see how like with the Tinder statistics, even the top 2 to 5% of them, the men, the ones who do get matches, still aren't even considered 10s in the girls' eyes, you know. It's like no matter how fucking great a guy is, they still won't rate him at the top, because it's funny, it's like they rate over 80% of men as being below average and only 2 to 5% as being good enough. But there's like in this column here, there's only goes so far. Like there's not even a group of men that are rated so high that they even get in the top, you know, as a 10. They're still like the highest they get is a 9. It's ridiculous. It's like even the best looking guys still aren't good enough looking for them, you know. It's like they want something that came out of a fucking comic book or some shit, you know. Like they don't even live in reality. So even like good looking guys, to them it's crazy. It's like I can't understand why they judge men so badly. It's like, you know, to judge people, like anything that falls below being perfect gets rated like a fucking 1 or a 2. Like how can you even, it's so retarded, you know. A 1 or a 2 is like literally somebody who has like their face like half burnt off, they have genetic abnormalities where they have like things in different places, or, you know, like severely like obese with like facial deformities, and like that's a fucking 1 or a 2, you know. Your average guy is not even on their radar, but the fucking ones who are even decent looking being told that they're like 2s and 1s, like I just can't understand why. It's like if a girl isn't interested in a guy, if she's like, if the guy isn't her taste or whatever, if he's not basically perfect, she rates him as a nothing. Like how the hell are you so arrogant that you do that, that you rate people as like ones and twos, you know, like decent looking guys. And at the same time, you see them getting interviewed in these things, and they're like smirking, saying, you know, like when they're asked what they rate themselves, and they're like, oh, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. You're not a fucking 10, you're a fucking 4, a 5, you know, a freaking average, regular person that you see on an every day-to-day basis. You know, you go to a bar, you know, there's like 100 of them in the room if it was a busy freaking bar. You know, it's like, that's the problem with today, is that, you know, they have all of these freaking things. They can be overweight, out of shape, you know, they don't work on their physique, you know, they don't even dress nicely. Like, look at how they looked in the Victorian era, the old days and everything, you know, they actually, they didn't even have to look particularly amazing genetically, you know, but they have like the curled freaking nice done up hair and the corsets, lace, freaking decorative clothing that actually looks like it's had time put into it. And they can sort of, you know, they come off as like looking feminine, elegant and shit like that from just more sophisticated level of clothing, you know, like that can make someone look, who's average, look quite a lot better. But it's like these days they put no effort into how they dress, they put no effort into, you know, even being slim, which is, you know, I'm sick of this whole fat acceptance thing. Like, it's a bare minimum for both sexes to basically just keep to be a decent weight. There's no reason, there's no excuse for somebody who's in their prime to be obese, unless you've got like a broken leg or a freaking spine degenerative condition where you can't literally walk properly or something, you know, like you don't have an excuse to do that. It's nothing to do with being genetics or any of this bullshit excuses that they make, you know, like if you're putting in loads of carbs, sugar, processed food, and you're having no exercise, that's going to happen to your body, and nobody should have a freaking ticket out of it, a free pass from judgment, because it's simply being lazy, and it's basically, it's a spit in the face to the people who created you, you know, like you're given a body and you're like, you treat it like trash, you get well overweight and everything, you know, it's not something that should be looked at without shame. It's gross for male and female. But you know, it's like these ones that they put no effort in, you know, they think that all they need to do is exist, be female, and have face full of frickin' paint, clown makeup, and all of a sudden they think they're a 10, and yet they judge men as if they're freaking nothing. You know, it's like if you take away the bullshit from online, if you take away the stupid fake up, you know, and bullshit like that, and the heels and the frickin' face paint, and then you took away all the narcissism from online, and you put them right next, these ones who think they're all that, right next to your average guy. You got your, like, you took all the frickin' best looking guys away and everything, and you got your average girls and put them in a room with like 50 average guys and 50 of them. They would all be on the same level. The idea that they think that they're so much better looking than fucking men is absolutely ridiculous. You know, like, if you're a 4 and you paint your face and you can go up to a 7, and then you think that you're better than all these men, you know, like your whole facade, your SMV, all of that can be taken away by a Kleenex cloth, you know, a wet wipe, a baby wipe, you know, like, how can you consider yourself beautiful if all of that gets taken away by a piece of wet rag, you know? It's just ridiculous, you know, like, I hate makeup, man. I hate it. And I hate that I find people with it more attractive. It's just so unnatural. It's like the whole sexual marketplace these days has been turned upside down and unnaturally being changed because of artificial means, like Instagram and everything. You see these so-called models online. In real life, they don't look anything like that. And it's the same with fucking porn. It's like you bend somebody over, you have them sticking one leg raised up, you know, it looks like they've got a fucking really rounded big ass, and then you see them standing straight, they're like completely flat. You're like, why don't I see girls in the freaking street or in town who look like that? It's because they're standing straight up. They're not putting themselves contorted into these weird positions to exaggerate parts that aren't there. I mean, sure, you get these ones who have these BBL surgeries and crap to make themselves look like that in real life, which is fake. But the thing is that most people, you do get the odd person who's naturally like that. But for the most part, people don't like look like that, and it's an artificial means that the internet has inflated and made people think that they look more better than they can. So now you've got fucking girls out there being completely insecure about this shit because they see this crap on Instagram. They think, oh, how do I get liked and get recognition? Let's see, take my clothes off and put my leg up in an ass position that makes it look like I've got a gigantic ass, or bend over in a freaking exam for prison, you know, like they're checking you out for hiding something. You know, it's like, it encourages that behavior because they think that that's how they're going to get rewarded and, you know, get recognition for it. And that's, you know, there's no honor in doing an honest job anymore. You know, like if you're working an honest job, you're a fool. But if you, it's like, but, you know, which is, it's understandable. But the thing is that it takes away decency from people because now they do that and then they're encouraged to, you know, make money by selling their ass online, doing all these pictures where they strip down and sell their nudes online to a bunch of guys, and it's just a whole massive toxic thing. But they get like a ridiculous ego boost from it because they exaggerate themselves. It's like, it's just a whole fake form of what beauty is. They see that online and then they become like that. And then they get all the likes and all the messages and everything, and it inflates their ego to more than they would be. So, you know, when they all think that they're so much better than guys these days, but it's like, if you take away the Instagram and the Facebook and all that shit that blows their ego like out of the hemisphere, you know, they wouldn't have that. When I was a teenager, even some skinny girls, like, obviously there was a lot of, you know, if you even knew a girl and you liked her, you would, it's like that song from Nickelback where he's talking about going to the bar and having to fight off all the guys from his girlfriend sort of thing. You know, you're in a constant battle against other guys. You know, you have to be better than other guys, or if you're with a girl and she's around a bunch of other guys, your relationship is always under a strain because the temptation's always there. You know, you've still always got to have other guys interfering and things, you know, it's just what happens. But sometimes, you know, when they're not really that social, if they're a bit of a relatively awkward person, or they're a bit more quiet, or they're not really an outgoing type, you know, you don't have as much as that. And sometimes even the thinner girls would be a little bit lonely at times and whatever. They wouldn't have these ridiculous standards. Like, even when I was a teenager, you know, I would meet some girls who would like doubt themselves and things. They weren't all egotistical and narcissistic and thinking that they're better than everybody, you know, and some of them would even struggle a little bit here and there, you know, and that's good because it humbles somebody. It's because it's like, that way when somebody comes along, you don't automatically think, oh well, this person's just here until I meet somebody who's a bit better, you know. They actually stop and look at the product. It's like, rather than glancing over like 1,000 people online or having 100 offers on their social media, they actually have fewer options, and that way they stop and consider what the person's like. They can get to know you, you have a chance. But these days, because of all that bull, you know, and all the constant ego boosting, they get to the point where they think that they're better than everybody, and they run everybody down. And, you know, they're constantly seeing these guys on TikTok and shit that look like models and whatever that you never even see in real life. It's like, I mean, even when I lived in a big city, I mean, these Chad looking guys, I might have seen like 5 of them, and I see a lot of people around town. I go to bars and things quite a bit, and these guys are so fucking rare, you know. And in all honesty, you see someone like that, they kind of stand out, and it's not a very common thing. It's not even 1 in 100 in real life. It's probably a lot less than that. But because of the internet, you know, that those kind of guys are the ones whose profiles are getting pushed to the top of the card stack. So that's pretty much all they see. It's the same with when you go on like TikTok. It's like, if somebody gets a whole lot of likes on there, their video and whatever gets pushed to the top of the reel or whatever, the top of the list sort of thing. The more people that like it, the more popular it gets. And so seeing as TikTok is just a stupid thing where basically, aside from, you know, the people who are on there making like crafts and art and whatever the hell else, you know, what it mostly is just a bunch of idiots dancing around lip syncing the songs. And when you've got something like that, your only talent can really come from. Your only thing that you have to offer is the way you look, really. It's just like a buffet for the eyes of just people. Just, I don't really see why it caught on. I mean, to me it seems kind of childish. I don't even think I would have gotten into TikTok if I was 15. You know, it's kind of, I'm a bit later of a generation for that sort of, but the thing is that that's what it is, you know. It's just I see a lot of these young attractive guys and whatever on there, so they're the ones whose videos get popular, you know, so that's the only kind of guys they focus on. They lose track of what real men, like real guys in real life, sort of look like, you know, that's what they think, why they think that, you know, like an average guy, what they rate as average is actually a guy who's like way more better looking than average. That's why I think they rate like 80-90% of guys as being below average, which statistically makes absolutely no sense, considering the average is determined by what is the common majority, you know. So that's statistically impossible, but because they're so used to seeing the best online and whatever, they consider that to be average for some weird reason, considering, I don't know why they get the idea that there's something better out there, but that's why they think like pretty much every guy is below that, because the guys in real life don't measure up to the shit that they see online. And the shit you see online, you barely ever even see in real life. I don't know if girls were always this narcissistic, if it's just in their human nature. They didn't used to be like that, but maybe social media just brought out this in them, this behavior. Maybe they were always like that, but they just went with guys that they didn't like because they had less options. Maybe girls throughout history were always unhappy with their men because they just didn't have the options, and now they have the options, they're showing their true colors. Or maybe social media has just made them all narcissistic and changed. I don't know which it is. I'd like to think that they didn't used to be this bad in their minds, that they were actually decent people, not just people who settled, you know. But now, because of social media, it's wrecked it. It's basically means that your average guy has no chance. I feel so fucking sorry for other guys these days. Like, I mean, I'm generally a misanthropist, really. I don't like humans. I fucking hate society. I hate humanity. I think humanity is a disease, really. We're just maggots festering away, eating away at the rotting face of a planet, you know. We're just bacteria. But I have a lot of compassion and empathy for people, and I know there's struggles, and I wouldn't want anyone else to go through them, you know. So I feel bad for a lot of guys and growing up in this generation, because as much as I don't like other people, I was just another person. A lot of guys out there who sit around, play Xbox, are lost, you know, black sheep, doomers, whatever, people who haven't found their place in the world. I can understand that sort of thing. So, you know, I wouldn't want people to go through that same crap. It's always going to happen. But the thing is that it's like, at least when I was a teenager, I didn't really have a lot of success with girls or whatever. I had one time where there was this guy who I used to be friends with. This girl got my number off him, started texting me, and then I know it was like, didn't meet face to face. We sort of got time to text and talk first, didn't know what each other looked like anyway. But I met up with this girl. She was a couple of years older than me, you know, just gorgeous, really. Thin, not like fat or anything, you know, because a lot of average guys these days can only get overweight people. And I thought, you know, if any girl isn't overweight these days, she only wants Chad, she only wants a male model looking guy. But the thing is that yeah, this girl was actually, like, she wasn't skinny like, say, anorexic looking, like no meat, but she had good shape, but she was like slim. Really nice looking, and I also had other girls who are like slim who at least text me, you know. They didn't completely snob me altogether. I didn't have any real success with them. I didn't really have any success really as a teenager. I did have one girl who was slim. On the first day we met, she was like really like quite into me and was like, oh, you know, how could anybody not like you, sort of thing. Like, I was like, okay. But yeah, I had a few people who were a bit like that, but they never ended up being like proper relationships. I think it's probably because they had a lot of options at the time. And, you know, if you get somebody who's like under 18, you know, they're scatty as hell, you know. They jump from guy to guy like fleas, you know, bouncing around from one direction to another. So when I was like a teenager and things, yeah, it was quite hard trying to meet somebody, because they didn't really want to stick in relationships unless it was with sort of like the perfect guy, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I did have a couple of relationships, but never really with anyone slim. But I did have at least girls on my phone, and people, they would actually like talk to me. They weren't, a lot of them, I suppose, might have been bad, but I did have some ones who were more open to talking to me. Like, these days it doesn't happen, but at least then they were, some of them were friendly, you know, ones who weren't fat. So I feel really sorry for the guys at, you know, who are in this generation, because it's like, I lived in a relatively small city, or town, whatever, when I was a teenager. And I think that if I was in a bigger city, even though it's like probably they would have had more options and whatever, because there's more people, I think that at least then, because I still had some people talk to me, I had some numbers and whatever, I thought, well, even though I think they're relatively all the same, because, you know, Tinder statistics and everything, they all have the same preference, at least back then I had some that came close to relationships to a degree. I had some that were kind of interested in me a little bit, but didn't really, and wasn't really enough for a relationship, and some ones I talked to and whatever. So I thought if I met quite a few more when I was younger, when I was a teenager, if I lived in a bigger place, I might have been able to get relationships and stuff like that. So I mean, I kind of came close in that. If I was around more people, I might have been able to. But the thing is that if I was a teenager in this generation, I probably would have had zero chance. I would have had like no numbers in my phone. I would have had nobody interested at all, nobody even freaking talking to me. Because, you know, that's what I'm saying about like this generation. I mean, I feel fucking sorry, because even if you don't get anywhere, you know, it's good to at least have those interactions, sort of thing. It helps you a lot, you know. So probably a lot of teenage guys go into their 20s not even really getting to really interact or have any relationships or anything like that, you know. I feel real bad for them, eh, like, these days. I mean, it's all gone to shit. The whole dating market's just gone to shit because of social media, and Tinder, Instagram, Facebook, the hell's that other one, TikTok, probably a bunch of other dating apps I don't know about, you know. All of that shit has just fucking ruined it, absolutely ruined it. So now they're all looking for the Ferrari that doesn't really hardly exist. Everybody wants to drive it, but it's unreliable and overpriced. Nobody wants the fucking others, you know. That's just how it is. But yeah, so that's the thing, you know. These days they're just, the egos are just so out of hand, you know, that they think it, like, you see these ones on these podcasts and things are so fucking horrible as people, like, and with that narcissism and egomaniacal sort of way of thinking comes a contempt for anybody who is below you. You know, it's not like they're just sitting there on their fucking throne thinking, oh, I'm freaking better than everybody else and whatever, but I'm still a decent person, I can, you know, and they just feel good about themselves. Or if they want more than that, they just like, they always like to put down people who are below them. You know, so when these girls think they're better than pretty much everybody, asshole, couldn't even drive on the right side of the road. Yeah, so basically, seeing as a lot of these ones have such fucking sky-high egos, they think they want to shit on everybody else. So they think all the guys are fucking so low, they're like ones and twos, and they think they're fucking tens, which means they absolutely fucking treat guys like shit. You know, the way that they get so many guys thrown at them that they think they're just basically disposable trash. That's how they treat men. And it doesn't help that they've got all these stupid simps online paying them money. And these OnlyFans, like, it just disgusts me how fucking men have allowed this shit to happen. How they boost their egos like this and all suck up to them, pay for their things, and then bombard them with messages and likes and all this crap so they have hundreds of people to choose from. You know, it's like guys are causing this fucking problem. It's like a spoilt brat, rich kid syndrome sort of thing, you know. They get all money and everything thrown at them, so they just learn to expect it and they don't value it. It's pretty much the same thing how they are with relationships. But anyway, 30 minutes in, I still haven't even got to the point of this video. The whole point of this video really is I'm just wondering how the hell the guys handle the hate that they get from girls. Whether you're an average guy who's just you know, who get it. I never thought I was particularly ugly compared to other guys. I mean, I don't fit into the box of being conventionally attractive. When I was younger, sure, I had better skin. I had youth, which counts for something. Like I'm saying, I wasn't better looking when I was younger, but I was youthful, and as a teenager at least. It might have just been the times because it wasn't social media back then, but they did actually, some of them were open to talking to me, more of them were friendly and stuff like that, things that I don't get these days. And I found that, you know, just as people though, I felt like I had more of a chance just because I was young. You know, once you get to a certain age, it's like your social life dies at 30, pretty much, or your late 20s. But my point is that I didn't really, it could be a sign of the times, but I didn't really look any better back then. In fact, I actually looked quite a bit worse, aside from my skin condition. The condition of my skin, basically. But the thing is that, like, back then I had sort of some chances just because I was young. But, I didn't really get treated as badly. So yeah, anyway, I was just wondering how other guys handle all the hate from them, you know? Just all of the hatred that they, like the horrible reactions and things like that, you know? I didn't really have this so much when I was younger, and I think that was just because I looked youthful and things, people more open to talking to me, or it might have been just because social media hadn't twisted them, made them all narcissistic and horrible, you know, and shallow. It could have been because of that. They might have been better people, less options, but it might have just been the fact that, you know, when I was younger, people were more open to talking to somebody who's young, you know, like when you're a teenager, it's sort of like how your social life dies at like 30 or your late 20s. You haven't changed as a person, you don't necessarily look that much worse than your early 20s, whatever, but it's just something that happens. So maybe it's because, you know, when you're a teenager, more people want to fight you, but more people are actually open to being friends with you. You can go to a course, a venue, whatever. Some people might start up a conversation with you and things like that. When you're older, you seemingly become part of the furniture. You just blend in and people don't really pay you too much attention. So it could be that. But maybe that was the reason they were nicer. But, you know, as I got older, say, I don't know, maybe like 24 onwards, I didn't really notice this stuff so much, maybe 20 to 24, because they were more open to talking to me, but I also didn't really start picking up on all this shit so much until I really focused on it. And the more I focused on it, the more I noticed it. So it might have been happening when I was younger more, but, you know, after you get jaded after years of this shit, and you start to notice it more and more, you know. So maybe I just blew it off. I didn't really notice, whatever. I didn't really pick up on it, but who knows. But anyway, I think that I was treated a lot better when I was a teenager, maybe up to about 24 or something like that. But anyway, since I was 25 onwards, I noticed the feelings of being really hated by the opposite sex, like, yeah, and I'm just wondering how other guys deal with this. I'm sure that a lot of guys deal with this as well. I mean, I can't be the only one, right? I mean, I'm not the only one who deals with all the other crap that I can deal with. You know, it's amazing when you hear somebody else talking about the same shit, so I'd imagine there's a lot of other guys get frustrated as hell with this. It's not just the loneliness, it's not just the depression, the feelings of inadequacy, feeling that you just aren't good enough, whether it be physically, whether you blame your genetics, whether it's just something about you. But, yeah, it's like, no matter what it is, feeling not good enough, you know, it really sucks. But the thing is like, surely I would imagine there's a lot of guys who feel this kind of hatred. And before you realize, it's like, I think the black pill ideology really helped a lot of people to understand why exactly these things were happening. Like, to me, I just thought I was like a fucking alien or something in a way. Like, I thought I was subhuman. I was like, because I couldn't understand why I'd been so many years without a relationship in the prime of my life when I was 20 to 24. I couldn't understand why I would get like nothing, why I would get no attention, or nobody would really talk to me, and I was practically invisible. And then I learned this pretty much happens to most men. It's sad, but black pill sort of stuff, looking into it and looking into looks, I originally thought this was a joke. You know, I'd heard about incels and people like that and bitching on and stuff and saying about jawline and all this crap, and I thought it was just a joke. I thought these are just guys who are just a bit lonely, but they took it a bit too far and coming up with all this weird genetic shit as to why it's happening. But the more I looked into it, when I started running Tinder experiments with guys who looked like male strippers and male models and things, you had that kind of face with that defined jaw. I never even really thought about jawline, but when I started doing this, like these experiments and having success with them, when literally nothing I could do would give me any success, I started to understand. I was like, maybe these guys are actually onto something. And then I realized that the only kind of guys who could get matches were ones with these particular kinds of faces and heights. You know, like the height counted for something if you have it in the bio or you have it in the pics, but it was mainly, that was only if the face was like that. And I thought, well, if the only guys I noticed who would able to get matches were ones with faces like this, I thought, you know, from experiments anyway, I realized that this shit was on something. And it helped me understand and realize why the majority of the time I was invisible, because I thought, well, all I need to do if I'm invisible is be around more people. So if you go to like some like house party or something, you go to bars, you walk around town, you immerse yourself around as many people as you can, basically getting into places that are got a lot of people, and you think the more you go, the more you'll be like, but it's kind of like being broke with no money in your wallet. It doesn't matter if you visit 500 shops, 1,000 shops, 2,000 shops. If you've got no money in your wallet, you can't buy anything. You keep thinking, oh, well, the next batch, the next pub, the next bar, the next event, music, band, whatever, is going to be different. But it looks as currency, really, when it comes to relationships, buying your way into attraction and finding a partner and things. It's the currency. So it's just like trying to buy product without having any money. And the whole black pill sort of thing made me realize, switch onto it. It all makes sense as to why I couldn't understand why I was invisible for so long. I couldn't understand why the few times where I was noticed, I was getting given horrible looks. Like girls would drive past me and they would either stop and look at me like shocked, like as if I was like a circus clown walking down the road, like somebody completely out of place. Or, you know, how you get a white person like walking around in one of those like countries where like they're the only white person and people look at them like all shocked. Or you get like some of these videos like online where they just, somebody's completely out of place, you know, like if you walked in wearing a suit to you know, a gym or something, you just stand out, you know, like that's, I thought, what the hell I'm dressed relatively normal-ish, I think. I mean, sure, I mean, I just couldn't understand it. It just didn't make any sense to me until this day. To this day, I still can't really wrap my mind around it, because I think that even if I am ugly, right, aren't they used to seeing ugly men? If they consider 90% of men to be ugly, then wouldn't seeing another ugly man just be just like walking past another car, another Honda, Toyota, whatever, that you see a million of on the road? Like, why do you look at it and why do you scowl and make these horrible faces? It doesn't make any sense, because aren't you used to seeing that? But then I think maybe there's something about me that simply looks so much worse than every other guy, to the point that they actually feel the need to do that. Or maybe I think that maybe girls are just such malicious, horrible people that they actually do this, that they get off on looking at, when they drive around or they walk around town, every single man they see that looks unattractive to them, they scowl at. Maybe they just scowl at like 40, 50 men a day, and that's how they fuel their like mana bar of like fucking evil or some shit, you know, like their daily limit of, oh, I've made 10, 20 men feel bad about themselves today, you know, kind of like a policeman has his quota of how many tickets to give out over Christmas, you know, pulling that money for the government. That's sort of how it might be, you know. Maybe they just do that to pretty much everybody. I don't know. That's why I'm wondering, why I want to ask other guys. If I had like 50,000 subs, 80, 100,000, this is what the kind of thing I would like to ask men. You know, how often guys get this, because surely I can't be one of the only guys going through this crap. I've seen a couple of people ask this on Reddit, and you never want to ask anything on Reddit because Reddit is pretty much, a lot of people agree that it's primarily left-leaning, leftist, liberal, and liberals are the most in denial people there are. They live on this idealistic thing rather than reality, and they're the kind of people that if you ever go on the asking for dating advice, they'll shun you and basically tell you that it's all to do with, they'll basically bait you into saying something inflammatory, something that piques their interest, and then they'll blame your personality, because that's all they know how to do. They're in denial. Most of the people on Reddit are like soy boy looking people, beta, the kind of people who wouldn't say shit to you in person because they're just sitting there whacking off over video games. Overweight, nerd looking. That's what Reddit is. You just need to see those Reddit freaking get-togethers and stuff like that. It's just how it is. It's just like beta liberals, but they'll always blame your personality. It's why you can't ask on there. You go on there, they'll just freaking bait you into saying something, blame your personality because they don't want to admit about looks, yet they themselves have no success. It's just ridiculous. But I saw some guy online on Reddit once asking, he said something like, I'm getting all these horrible looks from females in public. What is it, and they were trying to say, it's the people just having a bad day. Or, no, they're not. They're literally laughing with their friend in the car, and then they see you, and then they give you the death stare. It's like, besides, even if you're having a bad day, like, how does that justify, like, randomly scowling at fucking guys like that? I don't get that, but the thing is that it happens too often, and they're trying to bullshit this guy about what they try to say on Reddit is, they can sense your bad personality. It's because you haven't had a shower or a haircut. There's a reason why that's such a fucking huge meme online. It has, just have a shower and a haircut, bro. It's because that's what these fuckwits on Reddit say. All of them say that because none of them want to admit the truth. It's become such a meme because that's all they can talk about. It's bull. There are plenty of, it's not like 90% of men are unclean and they haven't had a shower and a haircut. It's just ridiculous, and it's like, society is so in denial about the state of things. It's like, I think it's like 1 in 3 men these days is fucking celibate. Like, I saw that dickhead, what's his name, Jack Denmo, frickin' put a question up on his thing, like, on YouTube. It was like, what percentage of men here are single? And it was like 84%. It's getting worse and worse. Literally 5% of dudes can get frickin' Tinder matches. The girls these days are frickin' dating are dating like 6 guys at a time. The kind of shit that would have been frowned upon. Your whole family would be embarrassed of you back in the day for this kind of thing. But it's accepted and people push it, like in the media because they want to corrupt people. But the thing is that you pretty much have next to no chance, unless you're the cream of the crop version like of a man, to get like a relationship these days. So most guys, it seems, it's getting worse and worse. It's like, at what point does it have to get to before society openly acknowledges it? There's this quote by Schopenhauer that I like. It's like, truth comes in 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Secondly, it is violently opposed. And then third, it is admitted as being self-evident, basically obvious. And that's just what society is about this whole looks thing. It's like, you try and say what's going on, you try and say about the situation, about things, you get laughed at. People just laugh it off, make out like you're just spinning a bunch of lies. Second, you come at them with evidence, statistics, proof, talk about your own experiences, your friends, other people, everybody online, whatever, and they just get angry at you. They throw poison, they spit poison at you for it. And then eventually, when enough people catch on to it, then it is admitted as being always true. It's like if the government, whatever, the media just came out and made this big huge thing about saying how looks was the most important thing, everybody would be like, oh yeah, well, of course. Because people are only against this and in denial because they're wanting to save face. People don't want to admit it because they're either insecure about it, they're shallow, and they don't want to be judged for it, or it's a very hard thing for people to believe that they just simply aren't good enough. So they tell themselves all these lies. It's like a, you know, they go to bed with their security blanket of lies to make themselves feel better. So that's the unfortunate thing, you know. Society isn't probably ready for, you know, this to be a mainstream sort of thing, you know, to be openly acknowledged, which it should be. You know, it's like back in the day, you know, you always used to hear about, you know, it was an obvious thing, you know, like the whole nice guys finishing last type of thing. You know, if you're a decent guy, you often get squat. And these days, if you say you're a decent guy but you get nothing, they just blame your personality and say you're not really decent because you're complaining about it. You know, it's like, but decent guys can only be decent for so fucking long. You know, if you're a good guy for all your years, and it's not about even being entitled, but it's like you can only stand loneliness for so long. So if you're a good, like, decent guy, I don't mean like a quote like what they call nice guy, basically, where, you know, you're just being nice. You're like a snake. You're somebody who's just being nice to try and appeal to people. I mean, like, if you're a genuinely decent guy, you know, you're not a criminal, whatever. You're good to other people, your mum, your dad, whatever, and you do your work. You don't fuck people over, and you're just all around like a wholesome, decent sort of guy, but you just don't look attractive, right? And you get nothing. You get years of nothing. You see the guy from the job who's talking about his, you know, girls that he sees in his spare time, laughing about them, treating them like shit, and yet he's banging left, right, and centre. You know, people like that, you know, scumbags like Connor Murphy and people like that, you know, fucking around. They're not good people, but because they look good, they can keep getting away with this sort of shit. And you're wondering why the fuck this keeps happening. You're like, well, when am I going to frickin' have my turn? You know, it's like, when am I going to have my slice of the pie? And you start complaining about it. Then you become bitter, jaded, and then you're just like, start talking about, you know, like how you think females are horrible people and bitches and things. And then after that, everybody is just like, oh, well, see, look how you talk about them. Look at your personality. This is why you're lonely. And it's like, this is so. It's like you literally have to choke down shit. You got the foot on your back for years about this, you know, like you're getting nothing, while some guys get it effortlessly. And then when you eventually, you know, just give up and you just start complaining, you become like what was this potentially really nice, sweet person to this jaded, frickin' morbid, miserable person who talks shit about these people. They blame you. They blame your personality and all this crap, when it's a load of absolute bullshit. You know, when you've only turned out this way because you've waited so long, you've been treated like shit, while the crappy guy goes and frickin' gets everything for free just because he looks good. And he's not even grateful. You know, I've seen, like, I knew a guy when I was a teenager. He would fuck around all the time. We met up with him and his group on Halloween, like the group that I was with and the group that he was with, like, met and like came across each other in town. One of these girls was dressed up like as a nurse or something, and this guy, he used to be like my friend, came up to me and he was just like, look at that stupid slut. He was like, I banged her in my brother's bed, you know, and he was like laughing about her and making fun of it, like just talking about her like because she was easy, you know. And I'm thinking, this is the kind of guy that girls are choosing to go with. And you're telling me about its personality? You know? Personality, right, yeah. If they can sense personality just by looking at us, and that's why they don't swipe on us, that's why they don't talk to us, then why can't they sense the personality of a guy who's going to treat you like a frickin' tissue, like a snot rag, throw away? You know, it's bullshit. You know, it's a load of crap. You see these guys, you know, who the ones who actually have this kind of success, they're not good people. They don't treat these girls like with respect at all. You know, they don't treat them like a priority. They don't break their plans for them. They're just like text them every once in a while being like, oh, come around for a screw, you know, or some bullshit. And that's how they get away with it. And these are the kind of guys that liberals defend. These shitty liberals, these fat, overweight, beta, pathetic looking liberals on Reddit and other places who get nothing themselves, they're the ones who like to shit on celibate men when we can complain about it. But while the crappy guys are out there actually, you know, we get called, oh, misogynist, all this shit when we call out their bad behaviour, while we're sick of taking a fucking back seat and watching some other asshole get the fucking pie to himself, you know, while we get nothing. And then the Liberals complain at us when we complain about getting nothing, but these shitty guys are out there absolutely fucking pillaging, ruining the fucking dating market for everybody and the Liberals themselves, and yet they let these get away with it, and they shit on us when we complain, while Chad's out there absolutely fucking pillaging, treating girls like shit, and yet we get told whether we're misogynists and that our behaviour is what's putting them off. Meanwhile, the guys that they're actually going with are treating them like dogs. I remember this girl was around at my freaking friends. There was this girl that I was friends with, and you know, she was you know, just, you know, regular kind of a person, you know, not anything like in the real looks sort of area, whatever, but she had a lot of friends and stuff. You know, she was always really social, had a lot of male friends and a lot of female friends. She was just somehow good with people. Anyway, she had this girl round, we had a few people around at her house, and then she had this girl around there. She was slightly kind of heavy, but relatively decent looking. And I remember seeing her in this fish and chip shop, that same girl, with this guy, and this guy was like treating her like mud, you know, just being like he didn't value it all. He didn't value her company, you know. It was like a boyfriend or something, and you know, it was just like saying like he wasn't even grateful for her being there, just being a real dick to her. And I'm like, this is the kind of guy that they choose to fucking go with, and yet we get told our personality is bad. Like, I haven't any girls who have been like nice to me, decent to me, I don't freaking treat them like that, you know. And same with a lot of other guys, would be decent people, but we get told, we got blamed that it's our personality that's what putting people off. It's like, yeah, no shit, we're bitter and jaded and twisted and got all these mental issues because of years of this shit, because of seeing years of the asshole who does no fucking work. He just turns up and has a good face. Literally, you're 6'2", you have a handsome face. You don't need to be anybody good. You don't need to be a good person. You don't need to have any good interests. You don't need to even have a damn job. You don't need to have a freaking car. You don't need to freaking be on the right side of the law or anything like that. You can be a freaking satanic criminal junkie who can date a wholesome Christian girl, you know, who's clean, like straight edge, won't touch even booze unless it's on a freaking Christmas dinner, you know. Like, it's bullshit, and yet society just shits on the men who can speak up about this crap. It's absolutely retarded, you know. Fucking sorry to all the good decent guys out there who can't even get your average girl because of these piece of men who are taking them all, you know, and oppressing the ones who complain, you know, who just get shat on by society. But yeah, I don't know how men can handle the kind of hate that they go through. Like, honestly, I feel it's so bad. So many guys can top themselves because of this. These guys who off themselves need to freaking find purpose in life, you know. That's what I realized. Some of these guys on these self forums and stuff, the celibate forums, seem to think that anything besides wanting to get girls is coping. It's just a way of coping with the fact that you can't. No, you literally say, even if you had all the success of girls you want, like legitimately, you have to have other fucking interests in life. I mean, it wouldn't matter even if say I did have a success like that, I've still got other things that I enjoy in life. You know, it's like, to me, girls or no girls, driving down a fucking long straight with a convertible and heavy metal blasting, some booze in my gut, frickin' eat some nice fruit out in the sun, riding a motorbike with a full tank of gas through some random town or highway that I've never even been to before, stopping in a new shopping mall to do some bit of shopping, making something. Like, I get like a reward, like, even though I'm shit at art kind of, I feel like really good when I've completed a new picture and it's half decent. If I've made something new with tools, woodwork, fixed something, installed something on a car, like a stereo, even if it's a half-assed job, I feel good about myself. I feel good by doing a lot of things in life, you know. And the thing is, a lot of these guys who get this depressed, you know, need to realize it's not coping to want to have things, you know. Even if you had girls, you have to you reach a part in your life where you're going to need to be able to do other things and stuff anyway. Like you need to be able to have a life around that. It's not one or the other, you know. So I would recommend to a lot of these guys who are going through this, you need to find something to, it's not even just to distract your mind, but it's kind of like the whole thing that you realize that even if you had a girl and they just ditched you or whatever, you're not going to start ending up a fucking crying mess in the fucking corner for weeks because you don't know what to do with yourself. You'll go back to your fucking purpose. You'll go hitting your weights again. You'll go back to your thing, because the way I feel about it now is that it's like I've got enough purpose in my life that I feel like even if I don't have something, I know I'm going to feel good when I get to sit on my new Harley, or if I get to finally get over the islands, you know, and things like that, what I'm wanting to do, or, you know, go shopping. If I fix my health and stuff, like that's, I still don't know if I can, but the thought being there is enough to keep me going. The thought of being able to sit out on that tropical beach one day, and do some exploring out in the sun, and doing some more urban exploring as well. A lot of things that I like, you know, like you need to realize that whether you have relationships or not, you're gonna need to find something that's gonna give you drive. That, say, even if you had a partner and they ditched you, you're gonna be like, well, I still have to get up out of bed because I have to go and work on this car. I still have to go and, I don't know, complete some kind of project, whatever you're doing. Or it's like if you're big into the gym, it's like, well, I don't want my body to shrink and waste away back to being skinny. I want to, you know, bulk up still, so I have to get out of bed and do, you know, that's what you need to do. If it's a hard thing, but you need to find some purpose through that. I still don't get how guys can handle the hate, you know, purpose or not. Like you do need one. You need something to keep you going aside from that, because for a long time I didn't, and I would just drink. I would just sit around drinking and feeling bad and frustrated and shit. But it's like now I don't bother drinking because I'm like, if I drink, I don't get to do my other stuff. I put off doing my tattooing and stuff, my art, for so freaking long. When I would drink, I'd just be like, oh, fuck, I'll get around it, whatever, one day. You know, I mean, I still like alcohol, but it's like I don't want to sit around. If I sit around getting drunk, that's a whole day that I've wasted of things. I'll be a day behind in my projects and stuff that I'm doing. So you need to have a reason not to sit around and get depressed. Say if you've been rejected or whatever, you know, you realize that you can't just put your life on hold for this crap. Yeah. But anyway, like about the hate thing. I mean, I don't know how other guys handle it. For so long, I found it so fucking hard. And I mean, I still do every now and then when I get a bad look. Like I was in the supermarket before, and this Stained is on the radio. Anyway, like so yeah, I was in the supermarket and I passed this girl, like just walked past me, and I thought, you know, like I tend to look at everybody who walks past me, you know, like sometimes it makes dickheads want to fight you and shit, you know, because some guys just retarded like that. But I mean, I generally look at people, sometimes, like most of the time, they just keep their head down, whatever. Like if it's a girl, we'll just say look away, or just look straight forward like an android, like they don't even look at you. It's like they walk straight through you kind of thing. But every once in a while, you know, you do catch a glance, like never in a bar. It's never in a bar or anything like that, unless it's right up at the counter ordering drinks, and they do it just by accident, and their gaze averts almost as soon as it looks at you. But a supermarket or whatever, some places, sometimes I catch a glance or whatever if somebody walks past me. Anyway, this girl makes this face, and I'm just like, why do they do it? Don't they know how bad that makes you feel? Do they think that ugly men have no feelings, or do they just think that we don't matter enough? That, you know, because I've heard other people say it. It's like people who are seriously walking around with fucking storm clouds over their head, they're depressed, they may have anything going on, they may have lost somebody, or they've just fucked up in the head, and they've gone through years of depression and feeling bad, being ostracized and, you know, secluded from society, isolated, whatever, and they feel hated by people. And all it takes is one person to come up to them and ask if they're okay and have a conversation, You know, it's not your responsibility to cheer people up and everything, but, you know, sometimes people like that who are going through all this crap, like, I've gone through days where I've just, like, the only thing on my mind is just, like, just complete anger and I hate people, you know, kind of thing. And then one person comes up to me and it's kind of like, it goes from, like, this, in my head, like, this rainy, stormy day with these black, like, these really dark clouds, and then it's like, and sky opens up and like the rays of the sun come down, you know. It's like, that's how it felt, you know. It's just like, it's like flicking a switch. It's like so easy to pull somebody out of their horrible thing. It's like the people who talk horrible online about like females, whatever, the bitter guys, all the jaded people, is because they've experienced this for years and years, you know. It's like these guys wouldn't even end up halfway this bad if people had just treated them nicely, or even not necessarily even like had any, even if they still hadn't had any success dating wise, if they still have people who talk to them, just basic human interaction, it can stop you from getting down to those depths. It's like talking to somebody is kind of like an antidepressant, you know. An antidepressant doesn't fix your depression, but it can stop you from sinking down to that really bottom low level where you're just like thinking about the rope. Like, you can still feel bad and whatever, but it just somehow you just can't quite get to that level of feeling bad. So it's like, all it takes is like one person's kindness to pull you out of that horrible shit. I mean, I've had a ton of times, I've had other people say it to me, I've had, you know, whatever. All it takes is one person, you know. So, and sometimes I heard that like it takes 5 positive things to undo one negative thing. So if you're going around and scowling at men you think are ugly, you know, you don't know what the guy's got on his mind. He might be an inch away from snapping, or he might just be an inch away from breaking down and just burying his sorrows in a bottle of alcohol or something, you know. But once you've had it for so long, when you don't have human interaction and you have this crap happen, it's just so depressing, you know. Like when one walks past you and they just like give you this filthy look, there's no need for it. It's just horrible. Or the laughing is even worse. I mean, it's the stoplights and things. I've had it a few times at intersections of stoplights. They look over you and I think, maybe it's because I drive a convertible sometimes, and I thought because of my car, I mean, it kind of looks funny, a young guy in a convertible. Maybe he's compensating. You know, it's because you get a young guy in a convertible who's handsome and tall and whatever, all of a sudden he's really cool. It's like a guy in a leather jacket. But if you're a guy who's ugly and that kind of thing, it's seen as compensating and weird and all this bullshit. It's a two-way thing. The halo effect is crap. But the thing is maybe it's because of the kind of car I have. But even the cars I used to drive in my job, like I had an expensive BMW, a bunch of Peugeots, and I've driven all sorts of vehicles, nothing too flash, but it's never really affected that. I've always had, you know, the odd one at an intersection laughing at me, and I can't understand why. But it really makes me feel horrible. It's like you go without for years, you go out to town hoping you're going to meet people, you never do. But on top of that, it's like a kick when you're already down. It's like you've already been beaten up, but then they do one worse, and then they spit on you, or you insult you, or piss on you, or kick you in the back when you're already lying down. It's like pouring salt in the wound. It's like, you know, you've been without for so long, you're hoping to find somebody. You go out repeatedly, day in, day out, all these times trying to meet people, and then you never do. You never get any conversations, never get any looks, but then every now and then one of them will look at you and either laugh and make you feel like absolute shit, or they will look at you with contempt, hatred, shock, any kind of thing that's really negative, and it just makes you feel like absolute hell. And sometimes I just feel like letting go and just screaming, or just crashing my car. Like, I mean, I remember one time when I was younger, I went out like repeatedly on and off all the time trying to meet people, and I would get nothing. I would walk around town all the time, and then I'd go out to places all the time. Nobody would talk to me. None of them would ever look at me. And then on the occasion, you know, the females just look over and just give me this look like, why are you here? Why, like, I'm offended at your existence kind of thing. Like, they're disgusted by you. And I was just out to town one day after like weeks of walking around, and then I just given up. I just had that feeling of hopelessness, just utter hopelessness. I was just like, nothing I can do will be good enough to make these people notice me, and I'll never get anybody. And then I was driving home. I was just, after this day of being around town, I was just like, oh, why do I even bother? And then I was just walking home, I mean, driving around the corner from Burger King, and then this bitch passes me, like, in this tall looking Hilux like looking thing, this big vehicle above me, and just looks down at me and just gives me this filth face. And I drive around the corner, and I thought, great, I have to go home with this. I've been out around town for ages all day, nobody freaking, another day, a reminder of that I'll never meet anybody, whatever. And then on top of that, I have to get reminded that I'm hated by some bitch who just freaking looks over at me like I'm freaking scum. As it wasn't enough for me to just go out and get nothing, no conversational look or anything, no close to even meeting anybody. There wasn't enough of that. They had to kick me when I'm down. So I was driving home, and this freaking bitch just freaking gives me this filthy look to make my day even worse. And then I just thought, fucking jammed on my fucking brake, and I got my whole bumper of my car just like put in. Like, I just drove off. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck do I do? And then I just like drove off, and then I went back. I didn't even bother to check because it was, and I didn't expect to get another car up my ass. I just froze, and I thought, I can't take this, and I jammed on my brake. Car went into a skid for like a freaking meter or so, and it's like a Suzuki freaking like a Suzuki four-wheel drive like beach type vehicle smashed in the back of me like a couple of meters away or whatever. And yeah, I didn't know what to do, so I just, because I wasn't expecting, I didn't even think, I just thought I just jammed on my brakes because I was like, fuck it, I can't take this. I didn't even think about vehicles behind me. I saw the thing coming up, I didn't even really react. But I drove back, and I didn't even check my light until I was back. The light was hanging out like a eyeball in a cartoon, like down a face, like, you know, or something like that. The light was hanging down, the whole rear end was put in. Lucky for me, I actually managed to get the car fixed up. I went to a mechanic's, and they basically cut a whole arse end of another car off of one and shipped it down, and then I took it to another garage. Oh, they ordered me the part, like the whole big interior of the boot well kind of thing and the bumper kind of thing, and they cut that off in another garage and welded the back end of another car onto that. And then I got a replacement light. The bumper itself was fine, just the metal underneath it was all somehow, because it got it in the middle. And that car looked like relatively decent. It just had a little bit of a rise in the boot where it kind of buckled slightly, but you had to look at it up close. Anyway, I just absolutely lost it that day, and I haven't had any more episodes like that since. I mean, I had plenty of times when they were laughing at me or whatever, or giving me filthy looks, but it's just, I haven't quite lost it to that degree. Sometimes I end up just going a little crazy when I drink, and I'm around people like that. But anyway, I couldn't handle the hate anymore. I can't handle being hated that badly. Like, you know how they just get, sometimes they just stop and they just look at you like you've kicked their fucking mother's dog or something, you know, like there's filthy fucking horrible looks. And I wonder how other guys handle this. I wonder how other men handle getting laughed at by girls or given filthy looks when they have no success with them, and then they just get randomly like scowled at in the street. You know, and it's nothing to do with personality, because I mean, my personality didn't change, you know, and this just happened. Like, I just got years of the shit, and I just got really pissed off eventually and felt like because of it. But yeah, I just don't know how you can feel like, when I was a little kid, I was like hardcore straight, you know, like, I mean, I still am, but I was, as a kid, I would like try and chat up adult girls, like adult females, you know, and things. And I always thought when I was older I was going to be like really like successful with them and all this stuff, because I had this stupid delusion where I was like, well, if I really like them, they'll really like me. I didn't realize they were just shallow and horrible, and they only care about guys that are attractive. They don't even care about men in general. It's like they just have this natural compulsion and want to fuck a guy who's tall and handsome. That's basically it. I don't even think they like guys, but as people. But the thing is it's like, I just realized, you know, as you're older, it doesn't make a damn difference what kind of person you are, or any action you even do, anything you even do as a person, you know, like, because it all comes down to they're going to like you because they find you attractive physically, and that's just the luck of the draw. It's just like rolling a dice, only someone else rolled the dice for you. You know, that's pretty much how it is. But when I was younger, I had this delusion that for some reason, because I didn't know what they were like, I thought I was going to have success, and for years and years like went by, it never ended up happening. And so I actually used to really like them, and I used to want them to like me, and I always wanted to have relationships. I never would have been an abusive person to them or anything, and I mean, I'm generally not anyway, because I have no interactions with them. It's like the only time I'll ever be abusive really to them mostly is if I'm pissed, or if it's like if they say something to me that's nasty or whatever. But for the most part, I never have any interactions with them anyway. But the thing is like, you know, I never wanted to become like this, but it just took me years of loneliness. And then it's like when the horrible looks started coming in and the laughing and things, it was like, it feels so bad, because it's like I wanted to like these people so bad, and I still do, but it's like I don't like carrying this burden of hate around with me, this feeling of contempt towards them and things. It's like I wanted to let go of that for so long, and I've given them so many chances to not be like this, you know. Like I try to improve myself, I try to look better, dress better, whatever, give them the least excuses I can to, you know, be like this towards me. I think, oh, if I, you know, I don't even like the way I look now. I mean, I never used to, but I mean, I used to have long hair and things and dress like, and well, kind of like how I am now, but I used to like be like goth for a long time and everything. But most of the time these days, I mean, I just dress like in like collared shirts and everything and stuff. I haven't really, you know, I've grown facial hair now just because of this scleroderma shit around my fucking mouth and stuff. Covers that, and until I can get it fixed, if I can, and I just haven't cut my hair anymore, because what the hell's the point? But like I did go for regular haircuts and stuff. I dressed like in relatively nice side of business sort of things, because I thought it was more respectable and shit like that. And it was like I'd still get the same things, you know, because I just realized it doesn't really matter. It's because your face and your height. But yeah, it's like I never wanted to feel this way. I never wanted to feel hated by them and have hate towards them, you know. And it's like I kept hoping that it was going to change. I'm just like, surely eventually they'll start to be nicer people, but it never did, you know. And it's really hard to deal with, you know. And I just have to wonder, how the hell other guys manage to do this? How do you deal with feeling like the opposite sex, who you wanted to like for so long, who you wanted to have some success with and things and stuff, because you have been straight since you were like old enough to breathe, and you know, like I was interested in them long before I was in school, before I was 5, you know, and to never get to experience that properly. And then when you want to, it's like, say you're an apprentice, right, or something. You really like cars, or you really like building or something, and you finally get to go into one of these places, right? Like you get to finally, you get your chance of being an apprentice or whatever. You get into the building site or the tattoo shop or the whatever industry it is, electrician or something, you know, because you've got this technical sort of mind and you're interested in all this crap, and then somebody gives you a chance, you get into the workplace and they treat you like shit. They treat you like the prison bitch or something, you know. They're like, oh, the apprentice, let's make him go and fucking wait, send him to the fucking shop for a left-handed hammer or some bullshit, you know. They test you and things like that, you know, because you're the new guy or whatever, or because you're the skinny guy, you think, oh, look at this fucking string bean or some bullshit. You know, you're the new person here. They treat you like a dog and they disrespect you. And this whole industry, which you looked up to, like your dad was into it or your uncle was into it, or, you know, as a kid you wanted to be a builder or a plumber or whatever the fuck it was, fire engine person, or I don't know, like whatever the fuck trade it is. My point is, if you're there and you're like the skinny, awkward looking, nerdy looking guy, you know, and you're a little bit dumb, you know, you're slightly incompetent, you don't really know what you're doing or what, you know, and you just get tested and people treating you like crap with no respect, you lose your interest in that industry and you just become to hate people. Like, I hate bikers, man. I fucking hate the cunts. And I don't just mean those assholes who wear patches, but I just mean, you know, your regular Harley riders and crap. When I got my first motorbike, I got a 250 Suzuki, then I got a Honda that was a 750 and whatever. And it's like, if you're not riding a Harley or a fucking American, it's like people just don't even think of you as a rider. You know, you just get shit on so badly from people. Old freaking, like, and whatever. And even when you do have the Harley, oh, it's not the right one, or some bullshit, you know. It's like, and even if you do have the cool bike and you got the vest with all the freaking Born a Ride or whatever patches on it and skulls and all this crap, and you got your chains and, you know, your Motorhead t-shirt or your heavy metal whatever, you know, and you're a big of a pisshead as any of them because you're the young guy and because you don't look like one of them, they don't respect you, they don't welcome you into it, and then you just become to hate the fucking thing that you liked so long. And it's like that with the trades, with the jobs, whatever. If you have this thing for these kinds of people, you have this interest for a long time, and they don't welcome you. You become to hate you. Like, you get lost because you want to belong with this thing that you like so much for so long, and you get shut out of it. The door gets slammed on you. These fucking gatekeepers, these elitists and shit, they don't want to let you into it. You don't know where to fucking turn because you liked it for so long. You finally got your chance to become part of it, and then they just shut you out. It's like, that's how I feel with like girls and things, because since I was 5, I used to like watch them on TV and stuff and things like that. You know, I was always really majorly attracted to them since I was like a kid. You know, I was always straight. I always thought that when I'd grow up, I never thought when I was a kid I wouldn't get married and have kids and shit. You know, and now, I mean, I'm too old for that shit now. But my point is that I never got to experience it. And until the day I die, I'm never gonna I've never experienced this shit when I was in my fucking prime, and it's gonna eat away at me. You know, like, it's just really, it fucking sucks. You know, and the worst part is being hated by the thing that you wanted to love so fucking badly, that never got a chance. And then when you complain about it, people just blame your personality. You know, how do you deal with it? How do other guys deal with it? You know, because for so long I wanted to have success with this, and then it's like you change yourself, you change your hair, your clothing, you change so much about your fucking self that you don't even know who you are anymore. You look in the mirror and wonder, who the hell is this person? This isn't me. You know, you put on an act, you dress nice because you think that it's going to help you, but you realize it doesn't matter what kind of background you are. It doesn't matter what your religion, what your whatever, unless it's a very specific small amount of people. Everybody else, like, it doesn't matter whether you're a good guy, bad guy, you're a hardcore criminal, a drug user, a drug cook, a freaking violent person, like a docile nerd who spends all his time reading, researching and things, or a sport person. It doesn't matter, because all that really matters is how tall you are and how good's your face. It's pretty much it. So it doesn't fucking matter, you know. But the hard thing is coming to terms with it, you know, and the fact that you just don't qualify. But how do you handle the hate that you get? You know, it's like you can try all day, but unless you have a good cosmetic surgery and cosmetic surgeon or whatever, and you manage to do that in the right time, and you have enough success with it to look good, it's not going to make it, nothing you do or who you are is going to make a damn difference. You know, I mean, you could say, oh, get rich like in one of these dickheads online, and then all of a sudden you got girls around. Yeah, but they'll be gone as soon as the money's gone. You're basically, it's very similar to prostitution. You're not paying for someone's affection. You will never have their affection. You know, you might be able to get, it's like Jake Paul and people like that. You know, it's like guys like that, if they didn't have money, would be getting jack shit. You know, they might be able to freaking do a bunch of drugs and hook up with a bunch of girls who are, you know, drug users and things. But, you know, these kinds of guys like online who flash the money around and get people, it's like, girls don't respect that. They don't respect them. They might like the fame that comes from going around some famous guy, but, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter, you know, because you'll never get desire. You know, desire is what you want from somebody. It's just being welcomed. It's them showing genuine interest in you, not just putting it on because they want something from you. You know, and that's, anyway, I just have to wonder how other guys handle like being hated, like how you handle being hated by the people that you want so badly, you know, throughout your life. You know, just going online. It's like so many of these guys that swipe through these girls on these slim girls on Tinder and shit, and they just think, you know, that they give them all a chance, but none of them, not one of them, not one in the whole country will give you a fucking chance, eh? So just because you don't meet the mark, you know, it's bad enough to be rejected by everybody, but when you're actually hated for it, when they actually laugh at you, they scowl at you and things, it's like, how do you choke down that sandwich, throw up the fucking thumb and just be like, fuck it, I'm gonna soldier on and handle it, you know? Like, how do you do that? I don't know. I mean, I went through so many phases of just drinking because of that crap, because how do you handle it? You know, feeling hated is one of the worst things, you know. It's like, I wouldn't really care too much if people hate me as long as I have some people who don't. It's like every band, you know, it's like even the best bands there are, the most successful bands have shitloads of people who hate them. Shitloads of people who are constantly wasting precious time out of their lives writing all this crap about them. You know, they get a whole lot of hate, but they also get a whole lot of success. The thing is, though, it's like, you can deal with being hated and having misery and stuff as long as you can balance it out with you knowing some people will be your kind of type and will be all good with you. But it's like, when you feel like universally an entire gender hates you, like, the only times that they give you a chance is if they have some disability, like they're overweight, or they've literally got some kind of physical disability. And you know that they'd change their mind straight away if they were slim and able-bodied, you know. That's like, they only do it conditionally. It's like, that's why girls who are over 30 start giving chances to the men that they used to reject in their 20s. You know, they try to say things like, oh, I've matured, or oh, I wasn't so nice back then, and all this bullshit, when in reality, if they could go back to being like 20, they would walk away from all these guys that they gave chances to because they were young again, and they just, you know, that's just how it is. It's like, it's crazy. You know, it's they lower their standards when they're in certain situations. It's like, there's so many things I've heard of girls who are overweight, and then they get with these guys, and then they lose this weight, and then they dump their boyfriends. You know, that's what my mum's friend did to her guy, you know. It's so common, you know. It happens a lot. It's because they lower their standards when they get to certain conditions. It's like, a lot of them, yeah, when they get to 30, or over 30, they start frickin' expanding their options by heaps. That's why so many guys in their 30s are with these single mums, and why they have kids in their 30s, because these guys are like, finally it's my turn, but they get the frickin' used up person who's only with them because they've gotten older. If these girls could enter a machine and go back in a 20-year-old body, they would kick their boyfriends out faster than they could say their frickin' names. You know, that's crazy. But yeah, when you really learn the nature of the beast, you know, you peel off the facade. The face is fucking horrible underneath, man. Like, only really like unattractive men, or people who are friends with them, or people who do research, really know true female nature, and it's horrible. I've said it a few times, you know. It's like, if you're just your regular ugly guy, you're just hated by them. They fucking hate you. You know, the looks and stuff. I mean, it's just so depressing. I don't know how the hell other guys handle it. I have to wonder. I have to ask some men how they handle that. Do you just tell yourself, well, I'm just having a spot of bother, a patch of bad luck, it'll be different one day, and hope for the best, hope that one day things are going to change and that you'll have your turn? I think that's what most guys do. But if you're like me, who likes to think a bit outside the box and is a bit black-pilled and things, you know, and you look at why they're like this, you know, and you know that it's the reason they do this. I used to wonder for so long before I found Tinder and the black pill. I used to wonder why I would get these looks and why I was invisible. And yeah, and then eventually I was just like, I know why, you know, and it hits like a fucking sledgehammer to the side of the head. You know, it really friggin' hits hard, and the feeling of being hated, you know, it's by the people that you just wish you could have a chance with it, you know. It's like, I mean, I'm not a fucking bad person, I know a lot of guys aren't, you know, but it's, you know, that it doesn't matter how much you have in common with her. If you're into the same bands, if you do favours for her, if you show her that you're just a relatively decent person and that you can get along and that you're a good guy to be around, and think it's not going to matter. The only thing that you'll be teaching her is that you're a reliable crutch if she ever frickin' breaks a leg. It's basically you're going to be in the back of her mind as a get out of jail card, you know, when she's drunk at a party and she needs somebody to pick you up and take her home because she's too pissed to drive or she doesn't have a car, or when she needs bailing out, when she's got below on one of her bills, she'll ask you for money or some other favour or emotional support or something like that, you know. You show you're a reliable, good person, they might keep you in the back of their mind for when they need some help, but if you don't, you know, have that attractive look, it's not going to matter. You know, it's like, I've known ones who I got along with well, and by no real means did they have reason to not be interested otherwise, because, you know, they got along relatively decent, but they just simply aren't interested. And like, the reason is because it's kind of like, say, if you're not hungry, you don't go out of your way to eat food you don't like the taste of, unless it's like gonna help you. But really, that's the thing, is it's the same with them. It's like, the only thing that's gonna make them want you is just if you have the looks that interest them, you know. Yeah, but most of the time they'll just treat you like you've got syphilis or leprosy or something, you know. It's hard to deal with. It is really, really hard to deal with, you know. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a thing, thinking that you'll never get to experience that. Meanwhile, some asshole who's got it, like, tall, handsome, doesn't even have to do anything for her. He doesn't have to frickin' do all this gesturing, these actions to show he's a good guy. He doesn't have to put in work and time. She just naturally likes him, and he just gets to fuck around. He's just like, oh well, I've got plenty of others, I'll just see you when I feel like it, kind of thing, you know. And the person that you're trying so hard to get interested in you is just, he's just passively having a go at her once in a while between his other fucking people, you know, between his other girlfriends and shit. But he doesn't even have to do anything. She just naturally likes him because he looks good, you know. That's the hardest thing to know, that some guys out there are like, you know, they don't even give a shit. They got, like, average girls to them are like just a dime a dozen. They don't have to put in work. They're like, oh well, alright, I'll see you whenever, or, you know, kind of thing. I'll do it when I'm bothered. They don't have to put in any work, but you're out there, like, they get it offered to them and they choose when they want it. But with you know, for a lot of other guys, it's like, you can be doing everything in your book to try and impress this girl, get her to give you a chance, but it won't matter. Meanwhile, this guy gets it for free. Nature is cruel. But yeah, I don't know. I just wish, either since I was young, I was the type that I like, you know. I just thought, you know, one day I thought I'll be able to make myself good enough get enough cosmetic surgery, get enough money, and I'll be noticed by the thick goth. Never happen. Or the bimbo. Thick goth or the bimbo, the thick bimbo. Yeah, but I just need to find a machine. I wonder if I could pay like a makeup artist to like fully deck my face out looking like, I don't know, a male model or something. Do you see like Bad Grandpa and was it the Jackass one where they made him look like an old man, and then they've made other people look like famous people and you know, like, I wonder if you could get like prosthetics or like makeup and things to make yourself like look like a handsome guy, so I could go out on, like for a few days to some resort or some bar or something that has like a really attractive hose there, and then be able to get with somebody, and then they'd be like, oh, you know, you feel cheated and all this shit. Yet literally that's like man's, that's the problem of man since fucking ages ago, you know, like you could imagine the females screaming if guys started painting on an attractive face through prosthetics and makeup, but yet they do the same thing and have been for years, eh? It's like, how many songs have been written about like a guy going to bed with a frickin' attractive girl and waking up next to something completely different?